Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we answer the question, who is the next best distillery? Let's find out. Run the video. Alright then folks, thank you for joining us, and we have quite a special episode here today. If you're not a subscriber, definitely consider being a subscriber as we come up with very new and exciting episodes here at the Whiskey Cove as we take the next steps into the Whiskey Cove's adventure. Please be a part of that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and definitely hit the bell icon too. If you haven't already, go over to the Whiskey Cove's website, thewhiskeycove.site, to purchase some excellent Whiskey Cove branded glasses. We have Glencairns, we have Space High Tasters, we have awesome rocks glasses at rock bottom prices, so definitely go over. Link is down below in the description, and if you want to support us even further, definitely go and check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/TheWhiskeyCove there. With that being said, when I make whiskey videos, I always have a lot of comments or people who ask me who is like the next best distillery, or who's the up and coming distillery that I really like right now, or what distillery is the best outside of the so-called Kentucky big boys, if you like. So I thought, heck, let's just do an episode on who I think is the best. And as you can see, the bottles that are in front of me are from Doc Swinson's, because I firmly believe that the blending that is coming out of the Pacific Northwest in Washington, which is where Doc Swinson's is from, is definitely up there with just about anybody who's blending bourbon and finishing bourbon right now. So the question that we asked is who's the best distillery outside of the big boys, and I feel like that is Doc Swinson's. They source a lot of this stuff from Kentucky, MGP, Indiana, and they're very open about what they do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We also have a short clip that we'll insert in the video where we sat down with the master blender. We followed up with him. We reached out to see if he wanted to be a part of this video, and he said yes. So we sat down with him for 15 minutes, but we'll do an insert of about 2 and 3 minutes just in this video. But if you want to go ahead and check out the full 15 minutes video after this, go over to the Patreon, go over to the Whiskey Cove Patreon. You don't have to be a member, you don't have to be a supporter. This video is open to everybody to view, so go over there, check that out, and you should be able to view it, and it's definitely worth it. We could have talked for hours and hours on end. He's a very busy person, I didn't want to keep him too long. However, that video is definitely worth to check it out there. But we'll just go ahead and check out a couple of minutes here. Thank you for joining us, Jesse. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be available just for this quick plug in here, the video that we're doing. You're the master blender of Doc Swinson's, am I right by saying that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Also the graphic designer and engineer. So at our company, we run a small team, so a lot of hats here. And yes, I am the master blender. Doc Swinson's the original.
Yeah, you guys been going since 2017. So what was that, 7 years?
That's when Doc Swinson's was trademarked. But I've been doing this since I was 21 years old. Just in different avenues, different kinds of liquors. So gosh, that's been, how old am I now? It's been almost 13 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's a long time.
Math, Jesse, math. Yeah, 12 years now, that's it.
Yeah, I was doing my research, and you got into a smaller distillery and you worked on gin a lot, and I believe you guys won gold medal at the International Spirit Awards for that gin, right?
Yeah, it was actually the highest rated gin at the time, which was pretty cool. That was beating even Hendrick's by 1 point, which was kind of like the #1 gin at the time, which is an awesome gin. So that was kind of an anomaly, and that was pretty cool as a 22-year-old to take the top of the list, which was pretty nuts. I think it was like 96 points or something like that, and the highest at the time was 95.
That's very impressive.
Yes, which is, yeah, it was neat, and it was all apple based, homegrown recipe. Yeah, that was fun. That was really fun. But I was distilling gins, brandies, and vodka, of course, because you got to make money somewhere. Something got to pay bills.
It's one of the easiest things to knock out from day one, right?
Exactly. And fruit make great white spirits. They're super smooth, a little bit sweet in the background. They can be a little crisper too.
Yeah, and then coming from the background, being a Brit as well, I've drunk a lot of gin in my time. So, having the palate of gin and the complexities that come with that. And I saw on the website, the Doc Swinson's website, some of kind of like your inspirations, like Anthony Bourdain and Gordon Ramsay. So like big flavors, different palates, kind of messing around with different flavors and bringing them together kind of really comes through, I feel like, in a lot of what Doc Swinson's is putting out right now.
Yeah, I think that the main thing when it came down to sitting down to develop Doc Swinson's was primarily I wanted to take finishing in a different way than I feel like most people did, which was still allow the bourbon to shine or the rye whiskey to shine. Not allowing the finish to take on too much of the boldness of the characteristic, because in the end, then you could just buy Tawny Port or Madeira or Armagnac or whatever you're looking for. And so I wanted primarily the whiskey to shine with the flavor addition of these different types of finishing casks. So the idea was layering and flavors, just like you would cook, right? So that hence the inspiration being Anthony Bourdain or Gordon Ramsay. And to be fair, I was just obsessed with their stuff as a kid. Like I'd wake up early in the morning and like watch all their shows or read their books. Like I just fell in love with it. It was a good journey in life, and I wanted to apply that to American whiskeys.
As you can see, Jesse was a fantastic person to talk to. Made it really easy for me to do an interview with him as well. Had some awesome stories. So Doc Swinson, was, as Jesse might have mentioned, was born out of Distiller's Way, which was a contract distiller who would distill a lot of spirits for other people. And they started Doc Swinson as a kind of a little bit of a side gig or a little bit of a hobby, and it ended up being quite a passion for them. And as you can see, they brought out an excellent brand that is Doc Swinson's, and everything that they do, they seem to be putting their finger on right now is just turning into gold, as we'll taste through some of these. And like I said before, what I really like about Doc Swinson's is you can go over to their website, you can search all of these bottles on their websites, and they give you like these really awesome pieces of paper that tells you all the information that you need about the whiskey. You don't have to go hunting, you don't have to go on Reddit looking for stories and maybe like myths and stuff like that, and legends. They have all the information there right for you. So first up, we have the Doc Swinson's Blender's Cut. So interesting story with the Blender's Cut. So they initially used the Blender's Cut as the base for a lot of these others finished whiskey, but as they were trying it so much, they just got used to the flavor and like, this is just really good on its own. So that's when they just released it as its own label. So the Blender's Cut is going to be a blend of two mash bills. Mash bill 1 is going to be 60% corn, 36% rye, and then 4% malted barley. Mash bill 2 is 75% corn, 21% rye, and then 4% malted barley. Finished in American white oak for a minimum of 5 years. But yeah, I'm definitely getting like some bubble gum, a little bit of jamminess there as well. Not too spicy on the nose, real nice vanilla there. ABV and proof on this is going to be 57.5% ABV or 115 proof, which is quite surprising actually, because there's not much heat coming out of the glass here. Just going in for a taste. I get a really nice, like a fresh American charred oak on the palate. There's a little bit of spice there as well too, maybe like some toasted nuts. And again, some more of that like cherry, almost like Penderyn-esque stone fruits that are coming through. You get a lot of oak and wood presence there, which is what I really like. And I could see why this was so pivotal in being the basis for a lot of these other finished whiskeys. That was the Blender's Cut. MSRP on this guy is going to be $45 for almost like a cask strength bourbon. Pretty good value for money if you ask me. So what we'll do between each one, you won't see it, but I'll just kind of reset my palate with some water here. So then next up we have the Doc Swinson's Alter Ego. This is the triple cask finish. This is finished in sherry and cognac casks. So this is finished in 3 different types of European casks. That is the Oloroso sherry, Pedro Jimenez sherry, and then cognac casks. This one is coming in at 47.9% or 95.8 proof. They also make a high proof version of this too. And let's go in for a nose. You do get some like the darker fruits on this one. Think like your dates and your plum, but I still do get some of the cherry that's almost coming through from the Blender's Cut here, because they do have the same mash bill as the original one. They do the mash bill 1 and the mash bill 2 from last time. The 60% corn mash bill and the 75% corn. Like I said, this is the basis for a lot of the finished products that they'll do here. A lot of caramel sauce here, like Hershey's caramel sauce over ice cream. You're getting a little bit of like that sweetness from the sherry coming through there as well, and kind of like that Christmas raisins and custard from the cognac here, which is a type of brandy. Let's go in for a taste. Very approachable, very tasty indeed. I get a little bit of like winey raspberries and strawberries there, a little bit like of a fruit compote. a bit more pear as well coming through there. And again, with like a sultanas, raisins, like dried grapes and figs, those sort of darker, sweeter flavors that you associate with some of those fruits there as well. Like I said, this is the blend of the two from this one, but then finished in that triple cask finishing series there. Very approachable. If you're someone who wants to get into more complex finished whiskey, then I think that would be a great start for you. MSRP on this guy is going to set you back between $50 and $60. Depends on what part of the world you are in. What I will say is that most of the prices that I tell you are mostly related to Colorado, but they can change depending on where you're at here. So then moving on, and then we're going over to the Bossa Nova series here. So this is straight bourbon whiskey finished in Brazilian Amburana barrels, which is the Brazilian oak from South America there. This is coming in at 57.1% ABV or 114.2 proof. So again, much like this one, it also uses the two mash bills from the blender's cut, and then it's finished on American oak, and then it's aged in American oak barrels, minimum of 5 years, and then finished in Brazilian Amburana wood. And this is probably my favorite out of the whole lot. This is one of the whiskeys that turned me on to Doc Swinson's. Because on your whiskey journey, every now and again, you'll get a whiskey that will be so different to anything that you've tried before, that will almost change some of your perception of what whiskey can be. And this kind of did it for me when it comes to the Doc Swinson stuff. Because it has the cinnamon notes that you would expect from an Amburana finished whiskey, but it has like a coconut milk-esque to it, with like a dusting of cinnamon toast crunch on the nose there. It's phenomenal. It's so unique, but so well done at the same time. Some of the tasting notes, just looking on the sheet that I have here from Doc Swinson's, is that sweet vanilla cinnamon cookies dominate the nose. Yeah, it's like a Christmas cookie with like some macadamia nuts there, with that coconut milk. Phenomenal. Let's go in for a taste. That cinnamon is definitely there right at the front. You definitely taste a lot of it, but it's not like the spice of cinnamon. It's the true flavor, or the sweet cinnamon flavor, the natural sweet cinnamon flavor on its own. It's like a cinnamon apple pie crust. Sometimes you can go to like distilleries and they do like a pie crust stouts or pie crust sours, and you get that cinnamon pie crust flavor. You kind of get that in this whiskey. There's no additives in this whiskey. That is natural flavor pulling from the Amburana wood, and it's so tasty. It's phenomenal. This is going to be potentially up there in the top 5 whiskeys of the Whiskey Cove of this year. That's for sure. Such a good whiskey. That was the Bossa Nova Brazilian Amburana finished whiskey. And then if you also want to get the Amburana finish, MSRP sits around $69.99 for that there. And if any of these that you're trying to be looking for, some of these, so Doc Swinson's have a tendency to do like very limited releases. So it's usually like 1 or 2 runs and it's done. So if you see these whiskeys sitting on shelves, you probably want to buy them because there's no guarantee that they'll be coming back. So around $69.99 is what you'll be paying for that. And also as well, while we're at it, I want to say a big thank you to Maverick Distributors here in Colorado for doing such a good job of getting Doc Swinson's here in the state. I've been in touch with them lately about a couple of different things, and they've been really helpful when it comes to the Doc Swinson stuff and getting Doc Swinson stuff. So I appreciate Maverick Distributors from Colorado. So next up, we are moving on to the French toasted straight bourbon whiskey. So this is a straight bourbon whiskey finished in French oak, toasted French oak casks. This very spirit starts in its first 5 years. This, again, the same 2 mash bills from the blender's cut, and then it's paired with a tight-grained French oak from the Taron Sud cooperage, rooted in the heart of Cognac, France. These casks are often used for making some of the world's premier wines and cognacs. We find these casks add a rich texture, deep sweetness, and exotic bacon spices there. Let's go in for a nose. You do get a real toasted note from this. It's not quite the same as like a double toasted like Woodford Reserve wood. You get more of like the deeper, woody, marshmallowy, brown sugar toasted notes. It's a little lighter than that. It's almost like a toasted vanilla, or like a toasted rum, if you like. What is a toasted rum? Maybe you just put some rum onto a baking sheet and heat it up too much and it starts to burn. A little bit like that. and maybe like a touch of powdered chocolate there as well, and a real wood presence. A wood presence that makes you think that you're drinking a whiskey that is aged a lot more than 5+ years, that's for sure. Let's go in for a taste. A real richness on the palate, very buttercream forward. You get a real hit of the oak tannins on the side of your mouth here, which is something that I only really get with higher aged whiskey, like 10, 12 years plus. And I guess the oak presence from the French toasted oak barrels is really hitting that note. So it kind of hits above its age statement again on the palate of you thinking that it's a higher aged whiskey. So if you're someone who really enjoys 13, 14, 15-year-old aged bourbon plus, this might be the whiskey for you, because it definitely has some of those notes that are almost like leathery, tannic-y, tobacco feel there as well. So if you want to find this, make sure you ask your local liquor stores to see if they're able to get any of the Doc Swinson stuff. You can also look up Doc Swinson's online and go over to their website, put in your zip code, and they can help you out that way. MSRP on this guy is going to be $80, so pretty reasonable there for, again, double toasted oak, French oak, something pretty unique there. Moving on to a series that is sadly discontinued with Doc Swinson's, and that this sourcing from Kentucky, I should say anyway, because they might bring back the exploratory cask finish series. However, I think this specific mash bill has kind of run its course, if you like, because this is the exploratory series, and this is the aged 15 years rare release from Kentucky, 57.1% or 114.2 proof. This was sourced from Kentucky, and if you're someone who knows their bourbon and knows their mash bills, this came out of the mash bill that there was the 78.5% corn, 13% rye, and 8.5% malted barley. This was the whiskey that was in totes for a little while. Some of the other, I think the story, you can look this up on Reddit. There's someone who made a really good thread on Reddit that talks a lot about this. So the idea and the thinking behind this was that a big distillery in Kentucky was paid or signed off on a contract to provide bourbon for like a third-party company. However, that deal kind of soured, or something happened that they were left then with just this whiskey left over, so they kept it in like these totes for a while until they were able to sell it to different distilleries, that they were able to bottle it under their own name. However, they made them sign very strict non-release contracts that no one could ever mention the name of the distillery. But there's been a lot of assumptions online, and based upon the palate and what it tastes, Jim Beam, Heaven Hill, and Wild Turkey are probably the three main contenders there. Some of the other distilleries that have used this distillate or sourced this, Chicken Cockmaster's Distiller's Pick, Bardstown Bourbon have used it in their Discovery 4 blend. The Hunt and Gatherer 15-year batch 1 used it, and then the World Whiskey Society Collection 15-year whiskey, which they charged $700 for, used it as well. This is batch 8, and again, this is only 4,015 bottles were ever produced. You might still see it some places from time and time again. For a higher ABV aged whiskey, you don't get as much jumping out of the glass as some of this other stuff here so far. You get almost like a little bit of a subdued woodiness there. Maybe like a lightly toasted pecan, or like a lightly toasted praline, if you like. Little bit of vanilla, little bit of spice, but some subdued notes there, that's for sure. Let's go in for a taste. A real easy drinker. You get that wood oak tanniness that you get from something like this. A little bit more mellow with some of the flavors. It's kind of really nice palate, thick, oily, surrounding the mouth. Little spice, some pepper running through there as well. Again, leaning more towards like the tobacco, the leather sort of flavors there on the back end. A really interesting release. If I had to guess, I wouldn't say Jim Beam. I would say this feels more like Heaven Hill. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Elijah Craig 18, if I'm completely honest, but at a higher proof. It would be interesting to see trying some of the Heaven Hill 18 that they released not so long ago, which was at a higher cask proof, to see how this compares, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of that Heaven Hill profile of the higher age stuff. But I don't know for sure, that's a complete guess. So that was the 15-year exploratory cask release there. And then lastly, we were doing a rye, and this is the bottled in bond rye from Doc Swinson's. This is a 7-year age stated bottled in bond rye. Bottled in bond from one distiller over one distill in season, aged a minimum of 4 years, bottled at 50% ABV or 100 proof. So with this one, age 7 years for a rye is a decent amount of age. Willet 4-year rye, it's only aged for 4 years. And a lot of other stuff generally doesn't hit the 7-year age state mark. I think that's a really good age statement. Let's go in for a nose here. Definitely getting like a crushed rye grain, like when you're eating some rye bread and you take a rye seed out and you kind of crush it in your mouth, you get it almost like a aniseedy, almost a touch of licorice there as well, but like a real resiny sort of note there. Little sweetness, not much going on with that sweetness. Maybe a little bit of spearmint there, like that vanilla-y sweet spearmint. And a touch of pepper just burning my nose there as well. Let's go in for a taste. Again, I'm getting that rye spice on the palate. A lot more mint on the palate, that's for sure. It almost transitioned into a little bit of a peppermint there on the palate. You're gonna get that typical rye spice. More of a rye drinker's rye, if you personally ask me. And that definitely lends to the mash bill as well, because the mash bill is 95% rye, 5% corn. So you see a lot of distilleries and companies putting out like just barely legal rye, so like 51% rye, 49% corn. However, there's a lot of rye in this. What would this go well with? I think this will be awesome in like a Manhattan or even like an old fashioned. Great just to drink on its own. If you want to be able to pick this up, this is going to cost you $75. I don't think I said the price on this one, but when these are released, about $150 is where they started. Like I said, you can't really get that anymore. But for the bottled in bond rye, you're going to pay around $75, which is pretty good for a 7-year-old aged bottled in bond rye. So I think we give a pretty good update on a lot of what Doc Swinson's do, and I really do appreciate a lot of their blending. I think obviously that's where they stand apart here, because they source all of their stuff. Like I said, MGP, Indiana, from MGP in Indiana, obviously different parts in Kentucky as well. They also do some stuff with Dickel as well. None of these have Dickel in it. This is all mostly MGP and Kentucky stuff they have here. I've yet to try some of the stuff that they've been working on through Dickel. However, I might be getting a bottle soon of 12-year Tennessee whiskey finished in a Madeira barrel. So if I do get that, I'll definitely report back to see how they're able to work Dickel into their blend. But so far, what a great representation. Everything I try from these guys are super great, super unique as well in some aspects, and just super flavorful as well. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Again, if you want to get any of this stuff, ask your local liquor store, can you get Doc Swinson's? I want to try it, and they will do their best to get that in, I'm sure. Thank you to Maverick, thank you for Jesse Parker for stopping with us here today. We really appreciate that. And what I really like about Doc Swinson's is it's just not overly expensive as well. You know, you start at like $40, $45, and yes, you can go up in value, but it's not overly expensive for what you're getting. Pretty findable as it is right now, and a good price. So definitely get it now before tomorrow or the next week or the next week after that it turns into allocated stuff, because that's definitely the direction it's going to be heading into. So as we drink through the world's whiskeys one glass at a time, cheers.